Hi world, it's Holly with Holly's Hobby again. We're going to be painting a winterscape tonight that tells a love story for a couple that's going to be getting married this December, so I thought I'd get a jump start on it tonight. Hopefully Oklahoma won't have this type of blustery weather this year and it'll go easy on us. So I was going to do a pair of trees, and this is their base with their branches, and their branches are going to go up into the sunset here. Right now, I'm just going to do the background, which is just a blustery bit of blues, whites, fading down into one of those gorgeous Oklahoma sunsets of pinks and oranges. And so we're doing the background right now. We're just going to brush it on, brush it back off. You don't have to have a lot of thought process into this. I'm going to drag a little bit of the pinks in. I'm sure we've all seen a million different sunsets that look like this. Anyhow, while the sky's still damp, I want you to add a little bit more water. A couple of snow flurries are coming in. Like I said, don't overdo it because we want it to feel blustery and light. I really think that blending the sky with pinks and oranges and purples and fading into the blues and whites and then leading off with some more blusteries in the foreground when we get done, I think it's going to lean itself to a really beautiful painting when we get finished. So right where the sun is, I drew a placeholder for our light source. It's going to be on the left, so keep that in mind. You'll want to put your shadows to the right, the opposite side. You know, sunsets in the snow are so peaceful. You can almost hear the hush when it's freshly fallen. I feel like sunsets is the time of the night whenever the world is starting to hold its breath. I really love them. I'm a sunset girl, not a sunrise girl. I'm going to start adding a little bit of yellow ochre and incorporating it in there from where our sun would be. We want to use just broad generic strokes, nothing with too much detail right now. We can always go back in and edit it later. We're going to be working predominantly on the background for a little bit till we get it where we want it. And then after that, it's kind of unforgiving, so you got to kind of nail it and make sure you got what you want. Alright, we're going to carry this on down and finish with a little bit of blue. Go strong, and then we're going to let that dry for a good coat and see what we're working with. We don't want it to blend too much so that it just becomes murky. We want to keep it differentiated in the colors. So I'm going to end with one more bit of pink down here in the bottom, making sure we cover the sides as well, and then we'll come back in a little bit. I'm pretty happy with the way the sunset is. I'm not going to do any more on it right now. I'm going to go ahead and paint the base in for the trees. And keep in mind, I know the trunks look really, really thick, but they're going to lead off and have the actual branches way up into here because there's some pretty tall boys. Alright, so we're just doing a quick 1-inch paintbrush, dipping it straight in the brown. No shadows or no shading or anything like that. I drew a couple little placeholders on there just for my mind's eye, but basically just freehand it. I've never really seen an ugly tree in nature, right? Okay. Make a couple of little crooks and V's, hollers and hills. Okay. Nice. Alright, drag that dry brush down. Get that good and saturated into the canvas. You can even use a little bit of oil if you want. I like mine to be dry on the trees because that makes it a little bit more scratchy, a little bit more of a different texture, more like a tree, like bark. So I kind of prefer it rougher. Alright, let me get the bottoms of this tree. Once again, just kind of eyeballing it, drew it in loosely. Have fun with this part. Being creative is your rite of passage when you're painting. Okay, fill that back in a little bit. Get that good scratchy noise. And then I'm going to clean out my brushes and we're going to get started with the next part. So we're going to just do the middle ground, which is these trees. And we're going to use a fan brush. Instead of holding it like a pencil, we're going to flip it straight vertical. And remember, I always tell you on your palette, keep light colors on one side and alike colors. So I put all the lights on one, and then I actually just got a different paper plate as a palette and put all my darks on the other. Since we're working with tone and value, we're gonna remember that the lighter things are, the further away they look. The closer they appear, the darker they are, especially lots of reds, deep purples, things like that. So we're gonna take our brush, and instead of using it like a pencil, straight up and down, and just tap those bristles down. And in your mind's eye, kind of make a visual of how you want your actual land to be, the topography of your land. If you want it all straight, if you want it cascading, however. I want mine cascading with a little bit of a V-dip in the middle and up higher on the sides. Okay, I'm also going to add a little bit of darker blue trees. Blend it in there. These are just shadows for the trees. They're not going to be the actual trees. We're going to have branches more substantiated for that. But these are just some shadows we're putting in. Let me go ahead and do this part. And then I'm going to pause it and come right back with you in a minute. All right, we're going to take a good sized brush, dry bristles. We're just going to dry brush it. Rub it in there pretty good. Get it all blended up. In fact, if you wanted to use some blending gel, you could. I usually just tap a little bit of water to blend it in. Scruff it in there real good. I'll also give it a little bit of a dreamy effect. I really like doing that, by the way. I use it for fog. I used it for flames. I painted a retired firefighter a picture one time, and I did the entire fire like this, and it turned out really good. I just call it scruffing. I don't know what the real technical term is, but we're going to go with scruffing it. So go in circular motions. If you do the hash like this, for some reason it takes forever as opposed to just using the circle motions. So we're going to get it good and blended in. All right. This painting is simple. It really is, but it's really personal. It's supposed to be a special gift for a couple that I made. If you make your own version, you know, put your own magic touches in it. I'm going to probably put their initials in the tree. You can make it for your sweetheart, put their initials in the trees. Anyway, all right, we're going to carry over and start filling in these trees with actual foliage colors of greens. Let me load up my palette real fast. These are the tall evergreen trees. We're keeping with the light green and then building up to the darker the closer we get. So we're still pretty far away in our painting, so do a lighter green and build up. So we're just going to take our fan brush and use it what it's intended for. We're going to fan out those little branches. Keep them sporadic and random, and keep them real sparse in between because you don't want to have just thick blobs. So just think of a triangle in your mind's eye and try and do a drag and drop brush all the way down to smaller at the top, a little bit bigger at the bottom. Fan it out, literally fan it out. So, all right, we're going to let the first layer dry so that it doesn't get muddy. And then here in a sec, we'll go back with some darker green and put a little differentiations into it. I like to let the colors melt into each other. It's just how winter looks to me. Okay. So I put my fan brush aside for a moment and just got my little medium brush, flat brush, because I want a little bit more control now that we're coming closer. So I can really control those brush strokes a tiny bit more. Building it up. And then here in a little while, we'll put some snowdrops on the branches. And maybe put a little happy fence in there. I don't know. Build up a couple of piles of snowbanks. I hope we have a decent winter this time. Working from home once in a while has its perks, and it's really, really nice. But I actually like being in the office. It makes you, get all dolled up and be nice to people and have interactions. So wintertime is always, it's hit and miss. So I work for a utility company. It's definitely a necessity to be there, because everybody who's running out of power is going to call us. So wintertime is always a little bit stressful around my house. And then my husband, he actually works for the city, and he has the same issue. It's really not a good time to excuse me, it's really not a good time to just be flighty or miss or anything. You need to really be conscientious of trying to be there. Okay, let's see what we got. While we're waiting on the trees to dry a little bit, I thought that I might come in and do a little bit of underpainting on the snow itself. So we know that we're going to be pouncing. So just take your palette and get a pretty good amount on your brush, saturate it. You can always pounce it back off on a paper towel if you want. You might want to hold your subject matter pretty tight. And now I know this looks like an ocean and you're like, what in the world? But you won't see this. This is just going to be shadows under the snow. Go back and load up a little bit more. And I bet you'd be surprised how much of this actually disappears. Build it up really good around the base of those trees, which we're going to come back and do some more details, so I'm not going to get too excited with all that. Keep in mind, this is a layering thing, that's for sure. So this is going to give us a little bit of shadows, a little bit of hints of blues and purples mixed into the snow itself. Okay, I'm going in and letting a few strokes of the dark brown pop through for the base trunk of the tree, since they're our center focal interest. And I really want to take my time on these, which to me is... Well, that's very telling. This is me taking my time. I tend to fly through these things pretty quick. I find the faster and easier I go and don't think too much on it, it works for me. But there are some drawbacks to it. Sometimes it can get a bit sloppy. You know. Basically just adding in a little bit more color. Everything in the wintertime is dead. So these shouldn't be too vibrant. Even though they're up close to you, they should be kind of just ready for a little rest and a break, just like we all are come wintertime. Break that one off a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go in with a little bit smaller brush, my medium, because that was my 1 inch. And I'm going to go in with the 1/2 inch and drag these branches up, and up. Start building that part up. We're going to spend quite a bit of amount of time on these branches, dwindling them in and out so that they look refined and elegant and really trace up into that heart. Hopefully the trees are an anchor, just like their relationship, and they both stand tall and stand strong through every season, not just the winters, but also towards the good summers and springs. And I guess that puts me in the mindset of my marriage too. The wintertime is often the time when Billy and I don't know, try and just end the year mindful and intentional, spending a lot of time together. That's when we go camping. We're outside a lot during the winter. That's when hunting season starts. Duck season's around the corner. It's already been dove season. Deer season's coming up. And just try and really end the year, like I said, with the purpose of knowing that we're going to wrap it up with a good bow. Because it's chaotic all year. All year is so chaotic everywhere. Everybody's got a lot going on, almost too much. And I like to just slow down a little bit in the wintertime with my husband. Since we've got the base in the middle, I went ahead and got my script liner and made it real inky and dipped it in water into some brown. And we're just going to start drawing squigglies. And I think I might use my mom's technique and just start backwards and draw from the heart. Whoops, I need a lot more water. Hold on. And draw it back in and start from the bottom out, because I have a tendency to flare and flail, and I'm afraid they might get out of hand if I do it the other way. I don't know. Let me try. One thing is for sure, I definitely don't have enough paint and water, so let me get off camera here, fix that up. All right, let's see what that does. Now we're cooking with gas. That'll work. Just like them with those curlicues, they just willy-nilly tends to work. That way we can drag and drop it. Good deal. Okay, I'm happier with that. It just wasn't dragging and dropping like I liked. Let's do one side and then move to the other. That way it looks a little bit more consistent. My lights are blinking on and off in the living room. I wonder who's trying to say hello. We just had a craft show, and my grandma has been gone for a few years, but anyway, it was a generational thing. We had, you know, a lot of aunts and my mom and me and my grandma, and we all would put our artwork, whatever it may be, into a booth together, a couple of booths, and then we would rent a cabin and hang out together. And just girls' weekend, it was so fun. But I was missing my grandma not being there this year, although I'm sure she was there in spirit. So, all right. Some of these are starting to bleed a little bit because I couldn't get my consistency down. So we're just going to use the chaos. Let me work on these for a little bit because these tendrils are going to take a while, and I don't want to waste your time. Okay, now that we've had the trees, we're going to go ahead and load our brush with some titanium white, which is a pretty fresh pile of white, clear white crisps like snow. And we're going to start tapping it onto the branches of these trees, everywhere you think that some snow would fall. And I say don't use it sparingly. Use a pretty good amount. We're going to go ahead and block these trees out for the most part. It's supposed to be a blustery winterscape, so we want to really, really make this look good and grounded. The shadows down here help it feel grounded once we get to the wispies in there. But definitely don't use it sparingly. Be generous with the snow here. We're going to pack it in like it's been a blizzard. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just a little stippling effect, moving left to right, keeping your brush moving. Load it up, like I said, with a good amount of paint. And I'm going to stipple this all the way through these trees, and then we'll come back and do some shadows on the snowdrifts. Alright, I went ahead and got the trees, excuse me, the trees done. And my next thing to do the snowdrifts, my biggest tip is to just get a really good, big, dry brush and dip it straight into the titanium white. Straight in there, and just dry brush it on. Make sure you go in one direction, which way the wind would be blowing. Just drag it across your canvas there. We're going to go up into the banks, across the fronts of the trees. Add little points of interest. Bring it down, excuse me, bring it down into the bottom there. Go ahead and cover that tree. You horizontally slide your brush to create these snowdrifts and use soft and gentle strokes because snow has a way of drifting and layering in nature. So just go ahead and mock that on your painting. Just step back a little bit, look and see. If you think you did too much, take it away, add some. I'm going to stop for just a minute and take a gander. I'm going to dry brush a little bit of a blustery moon while I have it in there. And in fact, odd fact, tonight there is a giant harvest moon in real life, and it is stunning. I'm sure everybody in the world will be capturing pictures of it. I hope you guys document it with your cameras. It is absolutely just beautiful. No other adjective for it. All right, there we go. So that's going to add a little bit more of interest to this as well, offsetting kind of the central focal point. Alright. We're going to continue using the same dry brush, and we're just going to add a couple of wind blisteries across. Make it look like it's really blowing and a-going. Get in there real good with it. This is what I imagine wind blusters would look like. And go ahead and put it over the top of the canvas, the top of the trees as well. Blowing right through those trees. Some of it's at an angle. I wouldn't want to be caught in that storm. Alright, a little bit up here by the moon. Okay, I'm liking that. You can almost feel how cold this picture's getting. Alright, we got that done. I'm going to come in with some more titanium white, or the purest white. It is called wicker white. And I'm going to take a 3/4 inch brush, just a flat brush, and we're going to just chisel that edge of the snowdrifts out. You just touch down and fan it, just like you do when you do flower petals. Touch down and fan it. I use this a lot for shorelines, on the banks of rivers, ocean scenes. Get your brush a little bit more wet. There you go. Drag it in. Just kind of softens up the edges a little bit. Nope. Went a little off key there. Alright, let me fix that mistake real fast. Well, I don't believe in mistakes in paintings. It happens for a reason. Alright. They just got a pile of snow on that side, I guess. Okay, that is great. Let's see what we have next. Alright, since we added a little bit of movement into the painting with the blustery winds and snow flurries, I'm going to go ahead and pack a little bit of snow, just doing the same stippling effect with the titanium white, and we're going to pack it into the branches everywhere there's a crook and a crevice where we think snow would naturally fall into it, and build it up pretty good. I'm going to just cover a couple branches with snow. This is going to take a while. Take your time with it. But it'll make a big difference in your painting. It'll add a lot of interest. And who doesn't like a good fresh patter of snow? Alright, let me work on this for a little bit. And we'll come right back. Okay, I went ahead and it took me 5 minutes to find my script liner, but I finally found my favorite little brush. And I'm going to get it really good and inky and go ahead and just start dragging it up through these branches with some white to look like the snow's falling on top of those as well. Just to add a little detail to it. Like a little highlight. But these are the frozen branches, so we're going to make them nice and swirly, and stickery, no straight lines in nature. Bring them over to the little heart. Boy, wouldn't that be something if you actually saw a tree in real life that made a heart. I'm sure people have. Maybe I have. I don't know. Okay, we're going to add some... this doesn't have like a big high contrast of colors. Everything's kind of subtle and muted, the tones, just like winter itself. We're going to go ahead and add some sparkling... I forgot the word. I'm sorry, I forgot the word right now. But anyway, speckling technique. There you go. And I've showed you this before. You just dip your toothbrush in a real good amount of paint and hold it close to the canvas and just start rubbing your finger up and down the bristles. And the closer you are, the bigger the splatter, the more the pattern, and the further away, the opposite. So we're going to get pretty good up in there and get some good snow. This will probably take a little while, so make sure you're in a good open area. You don't mind paint getting on, and make sure you have a little bit of time to make sure you're patient with it. Alright, I'm going to continue to do this for a little bit. Alright, I have splattered it with enough paint to fill this canvas as much as I think my painting can hold. I'm going to step back and do a couple more final touches, but I think other than putting the name on it, we may have a winner here. I'm going to go ahead and put the initials of the marrying couple on the tree, and come back to you and we'll see if we're done. I carved in the initials J and M and the year that they're getting married. And other than adding a little bit of frost around the edges, I think we're going to call this one good. So there you have it, a blustery, wintry love story. Hidden in the quiet of the snow, you have two trees standing together in unison in the storm. And I just want to say thank you so much for painting with me today with Holly's hobby. If you like this one, leave me a comment and let me know how your blustery love story turned out. So until next time.